Hello out there to all my book reading friends. It is Monday, the 16th of March. Unless you've been living, in a cave or under a rock, you're probably very aware that things are really weird right now in the world. We're all living in a pseudo quarantine kind of state. Some of us are self quarantining for reasons of having been exposed to somebody who's got COVID 19. Book readers, God love you all so much. It's so adorable to see all of the 24-hour reading thons or the recurring reading sprints that everybody's getting into as a way of sort of giving us reasons and ways to socially interact with one another online. So it's been kind of fun to watch that develop. I haven't done an update in March yet, so I thought I would do. It's a really long one. I'm going to warn you. There's a lot that I've read. Um, but I am doing a few readathons here in the month of March. There are four of them. That sounds like a lot, I know, but one of them is only a weekend. It's only 2 days, the Royal Weekender, which is the 28th and 29th of this month. There's another one that's just like a week. Most of them didn't even, the earliest anyone started was last Friday. So none of the readathons are terribly, terribly long. And pretty much most of my books cross over to one of the other readathons for a prompt, which is great because it makes my life really easy. So we are in the midst of the Sherlockathon as well as the theater readathon. I lied. The Sherlockathon started on the 8th. The theater readathon started on the 13th. The Royal Weekender is the 28th and 29th. And then the Zodiacathon Dark version starts March 18th. So I have a little bit of time to get those other books in. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of time to read since they don't want us really out socializing much. This social distancing thing is a reader's dream. Don't go to work and sit home and read. Great. I work for the school district. We were supposed to have 2 days of school this week and then a little mini spring break at the end of the week. And we got word last night that we're closed for at least all of this week. And then we're going to kind of go from there. The Iowa State governor has not mandated schools close. She has suggested it. So we'll see where that goes from there. As an hourly employee, I really would prefer the mandate because with the mandate, there might be a way for me to get paid. But otherwise, we'll figure it out. So I'm going to jump right in. The very first book that I read, or that I'm going to tell you I read, I actually read on Leap Day, but I had already done my February wrap up, so I didn't get it into February. This counts for a prompt on the Romanceopoly year-long readathon that I'm doing. It was a graphic novel entitled Bloom by Kevin Panetta and Savannah Ganesho, I think is how you pronounce her last name. Cute story. Took me about a day to read, like most graphic novels will. It also had recipes in it, which actually helped it to qualify for, I think, the 52 books in 52 weeks readathon. But it covered an LGBTQ romance prompt for Romanceopoly. So very kind of cute story about a boy trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life and who he wants to be. The next one was one that I also arced called The Four Profound Weaves. It read like an old folk tale that had been passed down through oral tradition, but it's fantasy based. There are four specific types of weaves that have magical power, and the main character wants to figure out how to weave from death, and she thinks that she has a relative, an aunt, who knows how, and she sort of does, but the main character finds a better way to do it. There's also a weave that will allow those who are what's called in between to make their choice because this one particular group of people in this story believes that there are those who are born between genders, and it's not until they're older that they choose, and there is a weave that will allow them to make that choice. It will magically alter their physiology. It's a good book. It's part of the Birdverse. It's a Birdverse companion book. I've never read anything else in the Birdverse by R.B. Lundberg, but it very definitely had that folk tale passed on through the generations kind of feel to it, which was cool. This next one, wow, I picked this one up as an ARC, I think from Hidden Gems. You can't tell that the color doesn't do it justice, but those leaves that look kind of orange on the camera are really a bright, vibrant red. Paranormal urban thriller, basically, is what it is. A guy inherits a house from a grandfather he barely knew. Mom was heavily involved in the occult. He and his brother watched mom kill their sister as a part of her occultic leanings. The tree on the cover of the book becomes a focal point of sort of the mystery of the dealing with the paranormal. It's the first in a series called Rights. It's the only book out right now by J.B. Spire, but I'm definitely Hooked, I have no clue where the second book will go because this mystery was wrapped up, but they could go, the same two paranormal investigators could get involved. Who knows? There's a touch of romance in this book, so it's kind of fun to read. The next one that I read was a quick read. It only took me a day to read this one. It's short. Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. Story of a brother and his sister. The sister has visions that she wisely does not always share with everybody because you don't really want to tell the mother of a 4-year-old boy that she has a vision of him dying in a drive-by at the age of 10. But her brother is born during the LA riots, um, following a not guilty verdict in the case of some police officers who assaulted a black man. And an actual riot situation. This is an actual based on a historical riot. Her mother is literally in labor when the riots break out. So his nickname becomes Riot Baby, and it's sort of dealing with all of everything that goes along with that anger and frustration. And it was a powerful book. It's sort of considered one of the flagship books for the genre known as Afrofuturism. Um, and I think the book's like that thick. It's not a very big volume. It took me less than a day to read. So it's a good read, powerful read. I hate to say that I liked the book because it's not the kind of book that you walk away from going, oh my gosh, it made me feel so good. It really makes you think. It pokes you in all the right places to make you think and confront some of your own mindset. This next one I picked up during our library's blind date with a book event. When you walk into our library building, there are meeting rooms, bathrooms. Then there is the Friends of the Library bookstore where they sell used books. Then within our library, there's always a shelf that features something. During banned book week, it'll have banned books. It'll have scary books, thrillers during October. And in February, they do blind date with a book. They take books and put them in either a brown wrapper or a gift bag. And they write a description on the outside and just enough hints to see and genre words to see if they can get you interested. I picked this one up. It's huge. She destroys me with a plot twist near the end that I did not see coming, and it broke my heart. I'm still a little bitter about it. And then you get to the very last page, and the last 3 words in the book are to be continued. This is a series, and I'm dying. I believe the next book is called The Muse of Nightmares. Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So good. One of those books that when you finish it, you look around and go, how are you all just going on with your lives like nothing has happened? Like you finish the book and you're like lost for a minute. Like what do I do with my life now? And I can't wait to get my hands on the sequel. I've never read anything by Laini Taylor before at all, and so now obviously she's on my radar, and I've added some other books of hers to my TBR because I needed more books to think about reading. I really didn't. This one I had to DNF, and it made me angry because I wanted to love this. That same set of shelves, now that February is over, they've done a whole display of retellings on one side of the shelf. The other side of the shelf is all murder mysteries. But it's all retellings. There's a great Disney series out there, a series of Disney stories out there that takes Disney movies and twists them. The Beauty and the Beast retelling is called As Old as Time. And they ask the question, what if? So with the Beauty and the Beast retelling, what if Belle's mother was the enchantress that cursed the Beast's castle and cursed the child because she thought he would grow up to be like his parents? I'm currently own Conceal Don't Feel, which is a retelling of Frozen. What if the first time Elsa accidentally hurt Anna with her magic, they sent Anna away and wiped their memories of one another. And so Elsa and Anna grew up not knowing each other. So I really do like a good retelling. Demelza Carlton has a bunch of them that are retellings of famous stories and folk tales. So I love a good retelling. I'm a huge Shakespeare fan. I had the chance to take a Shakespeare class when I was in college from a man whose doctoral thesis was written on Shakespeare's use of the fool. I wanted to love this because it's a retelling of my favorite Shakespearean comedy, but it's told as a dark tale. It's called The Great Knight by Chris Adrian. It's a retelling of Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, for me, Shakespeare is very character and dialogue driven. The first 4 chapters had almost no dialogue. It was all focused on the fact that Oberon had taken a human child, left a changeling in its place. The child had come down with leukemia, and so Oberon and Titania had to act like concerned parents and get him treatment. The treatment doesn't work and he dies. But there's never... Titania acts like she lost a toy, not like she lost a child. So there's nothing about her that's redeeming. She's so frustrated and so heartbroken over the loss that Oberon leaves. He can't handle it. And she basically says to him, I don't care about anything or anyone anymore, so you might as well just go away. So he does. To try to find him, she frees Puck, who is very, very dark and sinister in this particular version of the story. So I'm told. The problem is we spent so much time on this child that the other characters who are supposed to stumble into Oberon and Titania's celebration have barely been mentioned. When we came back to them in chapter 5, I couldn't remember who they were or why they mattered. And there's no attempt to make Oberon and Titania grieving parents. They really do act like they lost a piece of property when the boy died. They never give him a name, they just call him the boy. So I was disappointed. I really wanted to love it. It's my favorite, one of my two favorite Shakespeare comedies. And it fell flat. It was so exposition heavy. There was no character to drive the story forward. So yeah, I DNF'd that one. This next one I read for the March prompt for Code Sabor Readathon, which was fantasy. Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. We visit Xibalba, and we have the ancient Mayan gods, and there's ancient Mayan supernatural beings and deities and all kinds of stuff in here. It was just a really great take on all of that mythology. It took that mythology and brought it into modern day. Really well written story, really, really good. I loved everything about it. I was super excited to read it. I would love to read more by this author. And like I said, I like a good retelling, and I knew enough of the mythology that I could jump into the book pretty quickly. But the nice thing is, in the back of the book, they have a whole glossary. So if you're not familiar with any of the mythology surrounding the Mayan culture, it's all there in the back, terms and definitions and explanations to help bring you up to speed, which is great. These next few, again, now we're jumping into the readathons for March. This one is my morally gray main character for the Sherlockathon. It's called Savage Stalker. It's a motorcycle club romance book. These are my guilty pleasure. I don't know why I love them, but I do. And in a motorcycle club, there's automatically the insinuation that the club is. The story is the club leader, Dane Reynolds, is president of the Savage Angels. He's trying to clean up their act. He's trying to get them out of shady business and make them a respectable group. Katarina Saunders is in a terrible accident and loses her ability to sing. She has been an internationally known rock star and award-winning singer. And she goes to her grandma's house. Her grandma's the one that raised her, and her grandma passes on the same day as her accident. Needless to say, she and Dane are going to meet each other and fall in love, but she's being stalked, and other people's lives end up in danger as a result of her being stalked. And of course, the local law enforcement immediately suspects the motorcycle club, and they even, for a minute, suspect one of their own, and it's intense. Really, really good writing. It's the first in the Savage Angels Motorcycle Club series. Kathleen Kelly did a beautiful job. Like I said, these are my guilty pleasure. I want a whole bunch of them in a book drawing. So yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed it from her. The really fun thing is all the books I got in that book drawing came autographed. So yeah, it's kind of fun. But this was definitely a fun read. The next book that I read covered the murder mystery prompt for the Sherlockathon, and it's getting me through all the Patricia Cornwell books this year like I'm trying to. Cause of Death by Patricia Cornwell. A quicker read. Some of hers are a little bit thicker than this one. This is a again, I've read a lot of these books already, but I got away from them and I want to get back in and read them all again and get myself back on track and read the most current ones. So this took care of that prompt. It also, I think, covered something in one of the year-long prompts I'm doing, Pop Sugar 52 books in 52 weeks. This one, I picked this book up at the Friends of the Library bookstore as a used book. I think I paid 50 cents for it, maybe a buck. It's the first in the series, and I went looking for the rest of the series, and I have all 3 books now. The Sherlockathon called for, one of the prompts called for you to read a book connected to Sherlock. A Study in Silks is the first of 3 books, a series entitled The Baskerville Affair. The main character, Evelina Cooper, is supposed to be the niece of Sherlock Holmes. Ta-da! He does show up briefly in the book, but she does a lot of the deducing and a lot of the detectiving. So there are 2 more books A Study in Darkness and A Study in Ashes. I will eventually be reading these, but this one took care of. It also took care of a prompt for the theater readathon. Mixed genres was the prompt, because this is obviously a detective murder mystery thriller, but it's also sci-fi and kind of steampunk, so it's kind of all over the place. So I enjoyed it a lot. I can't wait to read. It's a intricate, intricate, everything I would expect from a Sherlock Holmes type mystery. But it's long. It was like 530 pages, so it's a reader. Um, but lots of detail, lots of hints, and lots of deducting to be done. Um, this next one I just finished up today. It's an arc. Oh no, sorry. I read this one first. This one's also an arc. Burning Love. Uh, there's a woman who has to lie about. Her name's B. She has to lie about um, her name to get hired by the company that her father owns, because her father is extremely old fashioned and thinks women belong married and at home taking care of the babies. Her brother, meanwhile, falls into a mid level executive job, no problem. The rest of her brothers want nothing to do with the company. She's determined to prove to her dad that she can get big deals made. Her brother sympathizes with her and sends her off to work on a project that he's invested in, which is a resort that's opening up. She wants to try to get this coffee that she loves, that she can only find in one place, marketed to this resort. So she goes to find it. She finds the coffee maker, and he absolutely wants nothing to do with it. And she's like, I could figures. Well, he's got a niece that he and his sister are helping to raise. Her mom has disappeared. Um, she's having some issues. Developmentally, she's behind the curve. She's 2, and she can't walk on her own yet. She's not verbal. Um, Something's wrong, but they don't really have the money to get her the medical care and the testing that she needs. So the promise of a 6-figure deal to sell his coffee, even though he's never wanted to, is more than he can resist. So they travel together to get this coffee sold, and you know what's going to happen. It's a romance, right? They fall in love. It's part of the Lost and Found series. It's a standalone, but there are other books connected and other stories that other characters in this that have their own love stories in other books. I enjoyed it. Elizabeth Links does a great job creating characters that are fun to watch interact, and it's fun to watch relationships grow. Um, she never really creates a damsel in distress to be rescued. Her characters are always, both of them flawed, and both of them need a little bit of rescuing from the other. So, but yeah, it was a good read. It was something I got to arc, and I was really glad I took advantage of it, because it was a fun read. The last one, this is the one I just finished today. This is a retelling for the theater readathon. The theater readathon had 4 people organizing it that each picked a show and then picked prompts based on some basic general criteria, like a main character and the theater aesthetic and all of that. The show I went with was Hadestown, which is a retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. Um, this one is you're supposed to read a book that was a retelling, and I love Sophie Lark. Sophie writes great. Steamy romances. She writes great characters in her romances. This is called The CEO of Cristo. I read The Count of Monte Cristo years ago. This is a modern day retelling. A man is framed for murder by a colleague who he thought was a friend. While he's in prison, that colleague tries to seduce his girlfriend, fiance, away. The fiance is pregnant with her boyfriend's child, her fiance's child. And when he gets out, he's basically been shoved out of the startup app company that he and his best friend and his girlfriend started. Um, and so the way he works his way back into the lives of his girlfriend and now his daughter, and deals with this man who framed him, who he thought was a friend, and really had spent all of this time trying to scheme as to how to get the girl that they both loved. Really good retelling. Like I said, I've read the book before. I've read the original before, and this was a really nice modern day adaptation. They kept just enough of the bones of the story that if you've read the book, you know the story, but they modernized it enough that it didn't feel forced. So I was really impressed with that. Where we are now is we've still got more to read in the Sherlockathon. I've got 2 more books to read for that, and that one will be done. The Zodiacathon starts Thursday. That's just 2 books for me, so that'll be a quick read. That one runs for a week. The Royal Weekender. I got 1 book to cover all of those prompts. The theater readathon, I've got 3 more books, because the CEO of Cristo took care of one there. But again, one of those books is going to be covered by another readathon. Oh, two of those books are going to be covered by another readathon, so I'm not really worried about that. So that's where we stand. We've got those readathons to finish out. I'm still working on some of the year-long ones. The Cosmere along, the Elderling along, I'm still reading those books. They're just big and bulky and taking me some time to get through. So the Romanceopoly, the 52 books in 52 weeks, Pop Sugar, those are all still there. But again, a lot of those books are covering some of these monthly things, so I'm kind of breezing through those year-longs without really having to try hard. I'd love to hear down in the comments what you're reading, what how you're getting through this social distancing era of life. Leave your comments below. Let me know what your favorite book is that you read lately. Talk to you later.